I'm winning too well. I'm scared by the incompetence of these clowns.
Brace for impact. You're about to be value tamed by the one and only.
When you have power, you have to be very, very careful with how you use that power. If I see injustice, and if I see things which I believe to be false, I feel like I am obligated to say the truth. I can't explain why, even if at my own detriment. What am I doing this for? Like, it's to the detriment of my life. I try to make people happy and smile all the time. I started to feel a lot happier. And I think the scariest thing about jail was the uncertainty of it. If they would have said to me, you're in jail for 92 days, or even 5 years, you got 5 years, cool, I'll do my time. But when you're nabbed and thrown in a cell, you're like, well, how long, is this my life? Is this it now? Is this the end of the story? I'm just in this cell. Yeah, I have endless stories from jail. It was certainly, I don't think jail teaches you much new. What it does is confirm everything you already know. It confirms everything you know about the reality of the outside world, that you need to be physically strong so that you're not attacked by others, and mentally strong so you're not attacked by yourself. You learn who's on your side and who isn't. You learn who's a coward and who's not. You learn who's an opportunist and who isn't. Your circle, you certainly learn a lot about the people around you when you go to a jail cell, that's for sure. If you don't die, if you're like me, a cockroach who refuses to die, if you sit around and refuse to go away, it's crazy. And it's genuinely scary. And you're not safe from it anywhere anymore. I don't harm people. If I was harming people, I wouldn't be out here as open as I was. The biggest criminals and the biggest gangsters and the most heinous people on earth don't have social media. You know this. Do I see a guy with an Instagram pretending he's a gangster? He's not a gangster. The real gangster hasn't got Instagram. But that's the reality of it. I fucking knew it. I'm winning too well. I'm scared by the incompetence of these clowns. But I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to lose? I'm genuinely looking for guidance here. Am I supposed to roll over and fucking lose? When they're lying about me and slandering my name, trying to put me back in a fucking dungeon? Back with the cockroaches? All I could do is protest my innocence, but they're such idiots, I make them look so stupid, and then there's egos involved. Big businessmen with business interests have ego investment in hurting me. And I keep winning. So I don't know, I'm in a very precarious scenario. Do I continue to win? Do I let them win a bit? Do I just roll over and shut up? What am I supposed to do? I don't know what the right move is. It's difficult. The best thing I can do is stay true to my faith and stay true to God and tell the truth and fight. The right move for me, I believe, is to fight. And fight to the end, because I think that suicide is always the wrong option. I believe if you're put in a bad position, the best thing you should possibly do is fight to the best of your ability, which is what I'm going to do. However, if I was looking at it purely logically without any kind of ideological motivations, perhaps if I would have shut up when they wanted me to, I wouldn't be in this tonight. But that's just not who I am. You know, Alexander the Great didn't have to keep conquering. Genghis Khan didn't need to take Vienna. He could have just chilled. He kept going. So I feel like when I'm in a position where I don't know what I'm supposed to do, the best thing I can do is just look to God and tell the truth. And that's what I'm doing. I think it's just perception. I understand I have this perception. And I think a lot of people who are also dislike me, a lot of the reason they dislike me so much is my perception. I've had people who say, I hate what you say. So what do I say? And after talking to them a while, they say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Of course. It's the perception of aggression. It's the perception of masculinity that they're afraid of. It's not even the words. They might like the words. It's my delivery. So I understand perception to be reality to a degree. I accepted that. I understand when you have a message which is complicated, and masculinity as a whole is a very complicated tapestry, that the best way to instill it and teach it is to break it down to its break it down to its core beliefs. So I've evolved way beyond Lamborghinis and chicks, right? But masculinity as a whole is a very complicated tapestry. You need to have the emotionality. You need to have the times you feel like crying and you don't. You need to have the times you can be aggressive. You need to have the times you can be violent to protect your family. It's very complicated, and you can't teach that, especially to the young generation, in spite of the constant propaganda they have coming in their ears, very easily. So I break it down to a very core message, and the core message is that I have financial freedom, so it's hard to do. And I have sexual access because I'm respected by men. And I have a good network because I'm respected by men. I break it down to those core things. And those core things are what I build that's how you build the tapestry of masculinity. Because if you don't have those three core things, you can never build the rest of it. That's the beginning of it. If you don't have those three things, it's hard to build the rest. So anybody who doesn't look into my message properly, I mean, I'm sure these people who are after me have never listened to me speak at length, ever. Ever. They just look at a picture. He's on a boat, There's 3 girls on the boat. There's no way those girls are happy with that, because my wife hates me, and there's 3 of them. How else can I teach my message, as complicated as it is, without first breaking down and proving you have success in the most core levels of it, right? Before you learn to box, you jab, and you cross. Before you do all the complicated stuff, you do the basic stuff. So a lot of it is people looking at my message, not understanding how detailed it is, not understanding how positive it is, looking at the baseline instincts which I teach, which I use to advertise my success as a whole to people to show and say, look, I clearly know what I'm talking about to a degree, because I have things that you want. And you're a man, so you can't tell me you don't want them. Every man wants this. Every man wants one of these. And they take all this and they try and weaponize it and use it against me. And you're right. It's feminism as a whole that has this idea that if a man is a man, unapologetically, and he doesn't apologize for being a man, he's a bad person. Which we've discussed at length, and I've discussed a bunch of times, but it's truly the most crazy thing about all of this is when shit hits the fan, it's exactly the kind of men they hate that they want. Every single time. Every single time. And it's hypocritical, and it's done on purpose, it's purported by the Matrix, and it's done to attack the baseline masculinity of men. I do believe that in history it's always been the same. I believe it's always been a select group of good men who are up against evil. I think they've always been outnumbered, and it's always been difficult, and they've always suffered. All of them. And history's always been the same. It's always been a small group of outgunned people who stand up, who are, to the detriment of themselves, too principled to allow injustice and evil to thrive. And they stand up and they're outgunned and they're outnumbered, but they're like, no, I have to tell the truth. And he's a cheater. He cheats. He cheats. The bad guy cheats. But you still win because you're good. And that's how the battle's always been. I would love for the world to be another way, but I don't think it's ever been that way. I think if you find any time in history, it's always been the same story. And now I'm in the position where, like I said earlier, what am I supposed to do? Do I have a life path in which I can genuinely help people? And do I have a life path in which I can genuinely do some damage to the evils of the world? Or am I just going to disappear like a coward and let them lie about me and do my time and shut up and delete my Twitter account and just go away? And I just feel like I can't give up. I know what I'm doing is good. I know what I'm teaching is good. I know people don't like it, but I know I'm not teaching anything that's bad. And yeah, I want my children to be happy, but I have daughters too. And how do you make sure that your daughters are secure and have a good future? Well, I think you do that by building good men. How else do you do it? My daughter is mine now, but she won't be mine forever. She's going to marry somebody. I like the idea of her marrying a good man with honor and principle, a man like me. I don't want to marry some idiot. So they call me a misogynist and I'm anti-woman. I'm pro-woman. The best way you can improve the lives of women is make men, better at being men. Because when a man is a good man, he's good for all of society, including women. He's good for everyone around him when he's good at being a man. So I feel like I'm helping them as well by extension. And it's difficult. And yeah, I can't say with honesty that I strongly considered giving up. It never crossed my mind. It was there for a second. Do I need to do this? And after like half a second, it was like, yeah. It doesn't make logical sense. Kids made me want to do it.
Kids made you want to do it.
Kids made me want to do it.
Got it.
I look up to my father as a hero, and I would hate for my sons to look up to me and not see me as a hero. Because that's how I believe you should see me as a hero. And I feel like and you're not a hero without an enemy. You're not a hero without fire blood. I have about 10 to 15 cups of coffee a day and 2 or 3 cigars a day, and I only eat once a day. It's funny because people look at my physique and I put pictures up and they're like, what's your meal plan? I'm like, bro, cigars, coffee. I eat once a day.
What time?
I eat dinner.
That's it?
Only eat dinner and 8.
So you do intermittent fasting for every 18 hours? What?
Yeah. And 80 to 90% of my calories are home. I'll just have like 3 steaks. But that's just how I feel best. I feel best when, if I smoke and drink coffee all the time, I feel hungry, which motivates me, and I feel energetic. It's energetic hunger. That's how I like to feel. When I eat hungry. If I eat, I'm just tired. Does that make sense? I don't know, maybe I sound crazy. It's how I get things done. I've never taken a steroid in my life. I don't check anything. I don't take any pills, nothing. So whatever I'm doing, I'm sticking to it. And that's what we need. And by the very nature of being the kind of person who's principled enough to risk his own personal situation in life, if you have principles that strong, you're going to be disliked by some people. You're never going to have a person who is principled enough to take risk to his public detriment for the good of what he believes in, who's liked by everybody. That's a logic fail, right? Because he has principles which are hard lines, and people exist across the entire spectrum. So there's going to be people who exist outside of those lines. That's what I liked about Trump. He's not perfect, of course not, but he says what he means what he says. I actually disagree with him on many things, but he says what he means what he says, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a man who says what he means and means what he says because he can't be bought, because he's principled. He can't be bought. Even now, me, if they're a company with $100 million and say, we're sponsoring you with this company, it's $100 million, you just have to shut up. That's it. I don't need it. So I want the money. I don't need money. There's nothing else to buy. I bought everything. I don't need it. My principle's worth more. So, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of principles, and it goes back to the original point. They're trying to remove all of our morality, all of our baseline understanding of things. Perhaps everybody was the same. Everybody was principled. Everybody had parameters, but they were different parameters. Perhaps they were competing ideas. But I think in the modern world, it's not so much competing parameters. It's just people who believe in things. People who don't believe in anything besides what they're fucking told. It changes everything. You got the empty brains, the slave minds, and the people who actually stand up for something. And the free thinkers. But the slave minds, you can't say, well, they believe in a different ideology, because they don't. They believe in what they're told to believe in on that particular day. It changes. They don't have any true core belief. They just repeat. I talk about the Matrix all the time, and people say, why did you choose that terminology? And I chose that terminology because it is perfectly accurate in describing exactly what is happening. The Matrix is a computer program which is designed to control your mind so that the body can be used power machines. That's exactly what happens when they make you watch the news. Control your mind, so you continue to use your body, to work some garbage job, and suffer from inflation, and power the machines. Machines being soulless people who are in charge of the world. But there's also a million other different ways you can compare the Matrix to the real world. In the Matrix, they say anybody can become an agent at any time. If their mind is not unplugged, they become an agent. If their mind is not freed, they turn into an agent. You can see that in real life. Mention COVID to an NPC. Mention Trump to an NPC. You can sit and have a perfectly cordial, normal conversation with someone for an hour and be fine. And you can mention one of the particular subjects which they are programmed to hate by the Matrix itself, and they will turn into an agent in real time. And you will see them now start to genuinely, emotionally dislike you as a person. They were your friend for an hour.
Yeah.
Now they hate you. They will turn into an agent. COVID was perfect. I would sit with people, we'd all be friends until I mentioned that COVID's garbage. Now they're an agent. What do you mean COVID's garbage? My friend's grandma was 99. She got sick. Okay. Sorry. That doesn't change my view. And they change. And the Matrix is actually a perfect, absolute explanation of what's happening. And Morpheus says it. If your mind's not free, you can do one of them. And that's what's happening. And this is what we have. We don't have competing sets of parameters which are trying to argue about which is the best way to run the world. We have people with parameters who believe in family and love and God and tradition and taking care of yourself and taking care of others. There's people with moral standard and there's people with none. Zero. Empty vessels, agents who are programmed on any given day and what they're supposed to care about. These people can't tell me they care about things. That's what's most annoying about my position, because it's absolutely and utterly weaponized virtue they use against me. The people who hate me because, one, I truly believe, and I know this is arrogant to say, but I feel like I have to say it. There's definitely a massive jealousy in me. If I wasn't so tall and rich and good looking, they don't fucking like me. They don't like me because I remind them of the chocolate school that that's part of it, right? They don't like me personally. So it's true. So they try and find an attack vector. And what happens when you have somebody who's monumentally successful across all realms of human endeavor, the only way you can attack them is by calling them a bad person. Can't call me stupid, they can't call me ugly, can't call me broke, can't call me weak, they can't call me any of these things. So how do we attack this guy? Well, he's a bad person. How do you call someone a bad person? You weaponize virtue. None of the people, who are pretending to give a shit about women and that I'm bad to protect women, have any interest in it. None of these people think I better become physically strong so that None of them even believe in protecting a woman in a physical scenario. None of them even believe in protecting their family. None of them donate to any charities that involve women, nothing. They're just taking the virtue and weaponizing it and attacking you. Me as a person who donates $25 million a year to charity to feed both male and female children. Me as a person who believes I have a responsibility to be physically capable so that any woman I'm walking down the street with is safe. I do more for women than any of these clowns would ever do. But they're just weaponizing virtue and attacking me. It's not even genuine virtue. This was so simple. These people, the matrix-minded people, have so few parameters and so few virtue. Whenever there's virtue inside of them, it's only so they can take it, weaponize it, and fire it at you. They don't give a shit about any of the issues they talk about. They don't care about race, they don't care about women, they don't care about gays, none of it. They take it, they put it in a bullet, and they shoot at the people they don't like. It's all fake. All of it. Yeah, I think Newton's third law, equal and opposite force, which is so clear, is absolutely true. There has to be equal and opposite force to all evil. And that the equal and opposite force to all that evil has to be God. And I've talked about this at length with atheists, and I try and say that regardless of whether you're an atheist or not, You're thinking of God as a man in the sky. You need to think of God as a concept as a whole. And once you do that, it's possible to accept what it says, right? I said to the atheist, I said, let's say there was 2 islands. They're shipwrecked, right? There's 2 islands. Both of them are full of savages. On one island, you and your friend are shipwrecked. On one island, your friend goes and he crashes and they kill him and they eat him. And you go to another island and they want to kill you, but they don't because it's against their religion. Did God say that? Who cares? Who doesn't even know the name of their God? But their God said, don't kill shipwrecked survivors. And now you're alive. So their God saved your life. The concept of God in and of itself saved your life. You owe God just for the concept, the idea of it. So even the idea of opposing evil as a whole is a thing. So you're either an evil person or you believe in God in some regard. And then once I understood that there had to be an equal and opposite force, I was raised Christian. I live in a Christian nation. Romania is actually, I think, the second or third most Christian country on earth. Very Christian country. There's churches everywhere. They strongly believe. And that's where I began my journey. But I always had a very healthy respect for Islam because I understand that to a degree, to have a religion at all, you have to have an intolerance to a degree. Because without an intolerance, you don't have rules. You don't have laws. You don't have any, like you said, you have to earn God's respect. If you're a religion which is tolerant of everything, then you don't have to earn God's respect. You can be a bad person and do bad things. God loves me, so it's fine. Well, no, it's not. Because that's not the point of the religion. So then you extrapolate that out, and I'll sit and thinking, what's the primary function of a religion? And the primary function of a religion, I don't believe is the religion exists so I can live forever. I mean, that's just my spot. But I think on a macro level, the primary objective of a religion is to restore and contain some degree of traditional value within the society. How do you judge? You change the way I work. How do you judge the success of it? I don't think you can judge it by the number of people who join it, because there's lots of people who are Catholic who don't act Catholic. They don't act as a Christian. Anyone can say they're something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says, I'm Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right? So how do you judge the success of a religion? Well, I like to think the best way to judge the success of a religion is how successful is it at fighting evil? How successful is it at preserving the morality of a population in X parameter, in X geographical area? So when you look at it from that way, you can't say that Islam isn't the most successful religion on earth. It's the most successful in regards to opposing evil. It's the most successful in regards to opposing different viewpoints. It's the most successful in regards to having people act within the limits and the confines of what it finds to be moral and good to God. It's the most adhered to. It's the most feared. It's the most respected and most thought. And then also I'd like to think,
I would say it's the most feared.
Yeah, it's the most feared. But what is respect without fear? Do we respect men we don't fear? If there's a man who could do absolutely nothing to you on any level at all, you might be nice to him, sure, because we're not bad people. But would you really respect him? If you could take his chick in front of his face, set his car on fire, he wouldn't do a thing. You wouldn't respect him. You might be nice to him because we're not bullies, but you wouldn't respect him. Respect and fear are linked. They're not always the same thing, and you can maybe have fear without respect, but it's very hard to have respect without fear. And also, I heard someone say once that we see the world as we see ourselves. If you're a thief, you think everyone's a thief. If you're a liar, you think everyone's a liar. And I kind of agree with that. I understood that. I also like to think we see religion as we see ourselves. I like to see myself as a person whose respect you have to earn. I like to see myself as a person who has strong, rigid boundaries. I like to see myself as a person who will stand up and say, no, that's wrong. I like to see myself as a person who's not afraid of being shamed by whatever community for saying, I don't agree with that particular idea. I like seeing myself that way. So if I'm going to see myself that way, then I'm going to naturally align with a religion that operates within that form. So when I say Islam is the last religion on earth, I say it because it seems to be the only one who will stand up and say, no, we don't care. No, that's not what the book says. No. I was raised Christian, and Muslims as a whole, we have no problems with Christians. None at all. I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-Christian, like I dislike Christians. We don't have a problem with Christians. We believe in a lot of the same things. We believe in Jesus. We put more respect on the name of Jesus than most Christians do. I just don't like the idea of people saying they're a Christian and saying, but because I'm a Christian, I can do whatever I want for all the reasons it matters. Because once you have that level of tolerance, you no longer have a religion. Islam seems to be the last religion left with parameters. We don't have parameters. You don't have a religion at all. So the closer I found myself to God, the closer I found myself to Islam. That's just how it ended. And what kind of people want to do that? And then the answer by extension is, I thought America was a Christian country. So how can you have a Christian country where the prophets of the religion are mocked to the highest possible levels within the confines of the country, and it's promoted? Is that a Christian country? Doesn't seem like a Christian country to me. I don't think the same thing would happen with Islam in Saudi Arabia. I can't imagine that happening. So how can you say we're a Christian country, but everyone's mocking our God on the streets? Ha ha ha. It's on Netflix. Ha ha ha. That's not a Christian country. So if you're not a Christian country, then where's the religion? Where the religion's supposed to enforce certain boundaries. You're supposed to at least show it respect, you know? And it's also kind of interesting because in Christian countries, there's more respect for Islam than there is for Christianity. In a Christian country, name one. They still don't do it with the Islamic Prophet. It's too much smoke. It's just not worth the heat. Because people believe. And I'm not advocating for violence on any level. I'm saying that even these degenerates who are trying to destroy people's belief in God, like we discussed earlier, because they don't want you to have any baseline morality. If you believe in God, there are commandments, yes and no. That baseline morality prevents you being an absolute Zionist. So they're trying to destroy it. But even those degenerates who are trying to mock and disgrace God, understand there's a point where it just backfires. And they don't want the smoke. And shouldn't God be feared? I'm scared of God. It's the only thing I fear. I fear God. He can put me fear. I know I'm telling the truth. God's on my side. I fear God. So God should be feared. So once again, does anybody fear the Christian God? I haven't seen anybody scared of him in a long time. And it's kind of crazy because it's very interesting. The mass migration and all these things are leftist policies, but then also Islam is the most right-wing religion on earth. It's kind of very interesting. I grew up in England, and I grew up in Luton, which is a town which is mainly Muslims. It's a huge Islamic community. And there was a bunch of English people who were complaining about there's too much immigration, we're losing our culture, and I understood their point absolutely. But these are the same people complaining about all the left-wing LGBT in schools and all these issues. And I think the only allies you have against this are Muslims. They're the only allies who have in any of this. The Christians don't protest against any of this stuff. The Christians don't. There's very few Christians who will get up off their ass and complain. In fact, I saw on Twitter yesterday, one of the churches was lit up. I have nothing against gay people. I don't care. And that's actually another point I'm making to you about this thing. I think most people don't care, and I think that bothers them. Have you ever had an argument with her? And she's like strumping around the house. She's huffing and puffing. You just don't give a shit. So she has to keep upping the ante until you eventually go, what's the problem? Because she tried the low level stuff and you didn't care. I kind of feel like this has a remnants of that. I'm gay. Cool. I want to get married. I want to wave my dick in your kid's face. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I feel like they tried to annoy us, and we're like, we don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. Be a person. We don't care. And now they're like, okay, well, we have to get to a limit where they have to react. Yeah. We want attention now. We want them to care about
What's the right move on that?
Well, that's the point. You know, it's difficult because there comes a point where you simply have to address it, and now you have to oppose it. And this is sorry to interrupt you, but this is why they're so careful and so clever with what they do. They package it all together. LGBTQ. I would argue. I don't know what Q is. First, sorry, I don't know what Q.
Question.
Q. All right. I would argue that G and T are very different things.
Beyond.
A gay man and someone who's chopped the dick off are very different things. Completely. So they package it all together. So now, because the spectrum of your enemy is so large, you have people who are fully this way. You have people who we accept and are normal in society. We have no problem with gay people. And they put it all together. You're an enemy of all these people. And they complicate the argument and they mix it all together. And now you're a bigot. And really, you just want your kids to be left alone. Really, you just want to leave the children alone. Of course. All you want to do is leave your kids alone. And then it's like, okay, I'm now raising children. I have more children than most people believe. How do I protect my children from this insanity? God. Which God can protect my children? Allah, Islam. I'll move them to Dubai or Saudi Arabia. And none of this will happen. Can I trust a Christian nation? Some of them. Romania is a Christian nation, and to a large degree, they oppose quite a lot of this stuff. But they're also NATO, they're also EU, they also rely on bailouts and grants and money. And on a long enough time frame, even in the 7 years I've lived here, I have watched certain attitudes change because of the rising flames of power. For you to believe in God, you have to respect Him. How can I believe and put my life in the hands of someone I don't respect? And I'm going to respect a God which is fear. Yeah, and I want to make one more point. I do believe there is one God, and I believe there's many different paths to God. And I'm not a religious scholar, and I'm not an expert on Islam. I'm doing my best, and I'm reading the Quran as often as I can. And it does say that Christians on the day of reckoning will see how close they were to the truth. And we are allies. We are not enemies in any regard, Christians and Muslims. And I do believe that the idea of Christians and Muslims shaking hands and saying, let's put an end to all this garbage would be fantastic. I'm not anti-Christian in any regard. I just found myself, as I became more and more religious, seeking and looking for a faith which not only I could be proud of, but a faith which was guiding in regards to, I don't know what a Christian would answer to certain questions like this. What does a Christian answer to? I'm a transsexual and I want to show your kids my genitals. What's a Christian? Well, a Christian's supposed to say no, do they? I know what my Muslim friends would say. I don't know. If you're a Christian, I don't know how you're supposed to act. I don't know what you're supposed to adult. I don't get it anymore.
The true believer says
the true believer. The true believer. But how many are true believers? I don't know. I see all over Twitter, all these churches are losing their minds. It seems very complicated. Islam seems very, very simple. You know what's right, you know what's wrong. Because they're trying to preserve the family unit. And to a degree, you have to always protect innocence. When you talk about extremism, I would be friends with a gay person. Yes, I'm a Muslim, but I would be friends with a gay person because if a full-grown man decides to make a decision, it's his decision to make. But I must protect innocence as a man, so I must protect children. If two full-grown men decide to have a fight, let them fight. If a full-grown man decides to pick on a kid, that's unacceptable. So I must protect innocence. So I agree with the extremism point, but I have no problem with full-grown men doing what they want to do. Maybe some Islamic scholars are going to watch this and get mad at me. I don't have a problem with gay people and being friends with a gay person. I don't care. My problem is when you take a person who's unarmed, who's innocent, who is programmable like a child, and start inflicting your worldview on them. That is disgusting and it's immoral. That is unfair and it can't be accepted on any level. And that's the reason homosexuality is genuinely outlawed in these countries. Not because they fear what two full-grown men are going to do. They fear what's happened in the West. So two full-grown men are going to purport on the minds of children which aren't theirs. That's what they're afraid of. I feel like if you're going to be the kind of person who strives for an exceptional life, which is what I am, I think I'd be a coward if I said I want an exceptional life, but I only want it to be exceptional in a good way. I don't think that's genuine. I want an exceptional life. And exceptional means away from the norm. And away from the norm means flying your Bugatti on a jet to Dubai and taking your own plane to meet it there. And it also means a Romanian dungeon with cockroaches on New Year's Eve. They're both exceptional experiences. It's unbelievable. You truly learn, like I said, jail confirms everything you already knew about the world. And you truly learn who's on your side and who isn't. And that's good to learn, but it's actually crazy. The larger psychological analysis of it all. Everyone lives inside their own minds, right? It's kind of crazy how much everyone's kind of self-interested. So it's been a learning curve, and you learn a lot about a lot of different people, and your circle gets smaller. And I think that's probably one of the reasons God put me in there, to just learn a lot and make my circle smaller. And you just have to listen to him and pay attention to it and say, okay, right, you're off, you're off, you're off, you're on, you're on, you're on. I needed his superpower, and this is his superpower for life, is he is the master of not giving a fuck. When you have men around you, there's that natural masculine competition, and that's what drives you. If you're gonna be the best version of yourself, even if you're a boxer training for a fight, you train with a team. If you're on a football team, you're pushed by your team. I think life should be the same, right? Imagine you took the normal average man and you moved him into a house of 5 people, and you had a philosopher and a fitness expert and a hypnotist, whatever it was. That will make him a more competitive person overall, because he's trying to compete with all the other people who are on his level. You don't want to take bitch position. So I don't like the idea of my life without masculine competition. Deep fakes are certainly going to change the world, because what we're going to have is we're going to have a post-truth society, and then the only way they're going to be able to tell you what's true or not is some committee which decides what's true and what's a deep fake, and then they're going to be in charge of the world, and then they're going to lie to you, and then you're really in trouble. So that's going to be very interesting. Once you get to the point where, what did I say earlier about not being able to trust your own eyes, they're going to take that away from us soon. Then what? Then you're really in trouble. I do like to think that with things like AI, there's always going to be some degree of natural separation between the men who are genuinely inventive and killers and the men who are, let me change the way I say that. I think if you're an exceptional person, a truly exceptional person, you don't have to be afraid of doing anything. But you'll probably agree with this. In my experience, in nearly every business in the world, you have 10% killers, and you have a bunch who want the paycheck. They do their job, but I wouldn't say they're killers. You understand? Mm-hmm. And we live in a society for a long time where I didn't even tell you now, sometimes when I hire, I'll say to my cousin or to my COO, I'll say, look, either get 1 killer or 3 more. Because that's the reality. That's the basic. You either need 3 people to half do the job, or you need 1 killer to do the job. So I think it's just becoming more and more competitive. The idea that you can just be Joe Schmo, do your job, turn up, I don't try that hard, it's fine. I think that's all going to go out the window, because as the world becomes more competitive, as a company, you have to compete with your competitors, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is just where do you cut the fat? Where do you cut the flat? And I've been saying, this has been my message for a very long time in all realms. I've said for a very long time that life for the average man is going to get harder and harder. It's becoming more and more competitive. You need to find more and more ways to stand out and be unique. And the only way to really do those things, unfortunately, as a man, is to suffer. And that's one of the reasons I'm kind of glad that God put me in jail, because if you look at anything that builds a man into a man, there's a degree of suffering. It's very hard to become a man and have a man who's respected and has stories and is capable when he only had a nice life and nice experiences. It's usually the things that made you the best version of you are usually the worst things that happened. The fact that I can't sleep, I've had girls say to me, you can't sleep, you need to see a psychiatrist. And I said, absolutely not. I would be furious if a psychiatrist walked in here and took my demons. I don't care if they could fix me with a click, they're mine. And they were bestowed to me by God. And they are mine to deal with, and they are mine to fix, because that's how I become a better version of me. I would be furious if someone took them away from me. I'm glad I can't sleep. Good, I can train endlessly. That's why I'm bigger than I've ever been. I'll train I'm not gonna waste a minute. But all the demons that have been given to me by God and all the problems that have been given to me by God are mine to fix. I would never ever allow anybody else to take them from me. I'd be furious. If a psychologist came in and said I could cure you, I'd say, no thank you, I will cure myself. I don't care if it takes 10 years. I'll cure myself, that's my job. And I know that when that's done, I will be more mentally resilient than I ever would have been without you. That's the whole point of it, right? So many men say, I want to be the man, but they don't want to suffer, they don't want to fight, and I don't understand why, because even if you look at a superhero movie, they tell you, even in superhero movies, they make it very clear, Batman's parents died, that's why he's Batman. All the bad things have to happen. There's no way to get there without the bad things. I get so many emails from people complaining about their bad things, and I don't have time to reply to any of them, but if I could, I'd say good. Good luck, congratulations, off you go. Of course she broke your heart. Of course you're sad, of course you miss her. She's with me now. That's life, that's part of it. That's the only way you're gonna get to that level of resilience. You can't become the man any other way. So yeah, I thank God for everything bad that's ever happened to me and all the demons, and I trust that he's not gonna give me anything I cannot, in the end, decipher and deal with. In the end, I think it's a puzzle, and you decipher it, and you work out the best way to deal with it, and you internalize the good parts, and you become a better and stronger and more resilient person for it. So I have to thank God for every single one. Being average is not acceptable
At all.
It's not acceptable anymore, and it's not acceptable in the sexual marketplace, but it's also just not acceptable, I don't think, even in life anymore. Period. You have to diversify now so much to even protect yourself. The idea that you can just be a law-abiding citizen in a country and just work your job and be okay is gone. It's gone. If COVID doesn't prove that, I don't know what will. Look at my situation. You have to diversify. You have to be smart enough that you have assets and friends and capability and lawyers and whatever all over the world now. That's the only way to protect yourself. You can't just sit within one jurisdiction and go, oh, well, but I don't speed, so it's going to be okay. I don't think it is. I think it's coming to a point where it's not going to be okay. And AI is going to make it harder and harder again for those average men. It's going to be harder and harder. I don't think the exceptional men are ever going to suffer from AI. I think we're going to use AI. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be scary, right? Because the world is hyper-competitive. Every single thing in the world is competition. I don't think people realize I'm a hyper-competitive person because I understand that every single thing I want, somebody else wants. The girl I want, other people want. The car I want, other people want. The house I want, other people want. The lifestyle, the jet, every single thing you want, somebody else wants. It's a massive competition. As a man, you have two choices. You either accept that as a massive competition and try and play the game, or you just try and pretend it's not a competition and live in perpetual failure. And it's going to become hyper-competitive, the world already is. You're not going to be able to compete with a person with a computer brain. So you're going to have it because you can't compete. And then once you have it, then who knows? Can they turn it off? I don't know. Can they turn you off? I don't know. Can they inject the slave mind programming directly through the chip? I don't know. That's scary. I would never want to do that, but it's going to get to a point where you're not even a person without it. You can't function without it. You're a second-class citizen without it. Politics is so interesting. It's so messy. I mean, obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. I believe in Trump. I like DeSantis and the things he did. I'm not going to choose between Trump or DeSantis. I think if one of them won, if any of them won, it would be fantastic for the world. I hope that America has a free and fair election. That's what I'm praying for. I think every country should have a free and fair election. So I think a free and fair election will be interesting, and I think the will of the people should be done. And that's how America was built and founded, and that's what I would like to see. America is still the most powerful country on earth. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in 2025. forward going that way. That's why they're taking him to court for no reason. That's why he was Matrix attacked. If Trump's situation isn't a Matrix attack, what is? What did they just hit him with in New York? Some defamation for defending himself against a lie? If that's not a Matrix attack, tell me what is possibly else. Anyone who's sitting out here who actually truly believes that the Matrix doesn't exist has no idea how the world works. The media machine and the legal system work hand in hand to try and slander people's name and convince the populace enough that they're guilty so there's no revolt, so they can hit them with a guilty plea. They've already decided before all of it. It's all a plan. This many months of negative news, then we'll hit him with this, we'll get him guilty for this, and with this many months of negative news, the populace will probably swallow it. It's garbage. It's a Matrix attack from head to toe. It's the masculine youth who are my fans. They're the soldiers you need. And they're all listening to me. And I'm teaching them things like God, religion, personal responsibility, accountability, discipline. And everyone's saying, well, why are they attacking Andrew for just telling the truth and making me go to the gym? Because when you have these things, when you have accountability and discipline and personal responsibility, you have a barrier, you have a parameter, you have a no, you have a limit. They don't want you to have a limit. None of the men are allowed limits. We must accept whatever we are given from our relationship with our woman, from the government, from our job. We're just the slaves. We're the backbone of the tax bracket. We just have to shut up and pay our taxes. As soon as we have limits, they have a problem. That's why they dislike the things I teach. What do I really say? What do I really teach young kids that's genuine dangerous? What do I say? Go to the gym, stick up for yourself? Stick up for yourself, go to the gym, you're allowed an opinion. Educate yourself, be smart, work hard. Believe in things, believe in yourself. Have friends, have strong friends around you. Don't listen to dishonest men or dishonest women. It's not misogynistic to say dishonest people. Non-gendered should be anywhere near you. You should have standards for who's your friend, standards for who you have relationships with romantically, whether you're gay or straight. You should have standards. Telling men to have standards is now a wrong thing. Because as soon as men have standards, they lose control. They don't want any man to have any standard on anything.
Timide, les mains tout abîmées, il taillait la pierre, fils d'ouvrier. Il en était fier, mais pourquoi vous riez?